Welcome to a special episode of the Fredcast Cycling Podcast. It is my pleasure to be joined today here at Interbike in the palatial Good Morning Interbike Studios, the Universal Sports Media Center, by Mike Cachat. Mike, you are the president of JensonUSA?
CEO, president, founder, owner.
You do the windows, clean the bathrooms occasionally.
I do that stuff occasionally.
So first of all, Jenson, as you all know, has been a long time and loyal supporter of the Fredcast, which is very much appreciated.
Yeah, no
you
problem.
and I met a couple of years ago when I came through your new facility, which is gorgeous, and we're going to get to that in a little while. But first I just want to talk about Jenson. How did it get started? How did you get started doing what you're doing?
It started with my introduction into mountain biking. When I was, 10 or 12 years old, I loved cycling. Yeah. And I'd see all these cyclists ride by the top of the street, and I always wondered, where the heck are they going?
Right.
And one day I rode my bike up there, waited for them to go, and I followed them. And they took me to this mountain biking area in my hometown of Yorba Linda, and it was Chino Hills State Park. And so I got into cycling, and I just fell in love, mountain biking specifically. I got a job at a little bike store. I always have had a passion for business, and I met this individual, the manager of the store, who really kind of took me under his wing and said, what are your dreams? What are your aspirations in life? And I told him, someday I want to own a business, but I just don't know what it's going to be. And he's like, well, duh, why don't you do mountain biking? So I started as a little tiny company through his coaching.
Now wait, how old were you at this point?
I was 16 years old.
And you started a company?
Yeah, it was 1993, 94, somewhere in that range. I had a couple years experience working as a little shop rat at this store in Brea, and started. It wasn't necessarily Jenson at the time. It was like I did this mobile bicycle repair business. Okay. And then those customers were like, well, we need bar ends and we need purple anodized stems and,
I remember all that.
All that fun stuff, yeah. So I figured out how to get the product for them and built up this inventory. It was really small, just selling to local people that I met on the trail, advertising in local magazines and publications like that.
Wow.
And then it was my dad that was irritated the fact that I was clogging up his entire garage with bike part inventory. And he's like, Mike, you need to get out of the inventory business and stick to service. So sell all this stuff and you're no more allowed to have bike parts here. And that's when I decided, I'm going to start a mail order company. And I'm going to get rid of all this inventory by shipping it out and expanding my, instead of being such a localized market, expand it out. And then I started getting all these phone calls and people wanting all these various different parts, and I just couldn't help it. And I now have millions and millions of dollars of inventory. Right. My dad supports me, though.
Yeah, right. You talk about selling stuff, at the local races or to the folks that you know locally. It reminds me a lot of Mike Sinyard at Specialized. Right. I mean, the reason it's called Specialized, the full name of the company is Specialized Bicycle Components, at least it used to be. And he started it doing exactly the same thing.
Yeah, I've seen the pictures.
Yeah. He was able to get...
From the 70s.
He was able to get parts that other people couldn't get. They were specialized. So at the time, that was really a commodity name, not a brand name.
No, yeah.
And it's very similar to the way that you started Jenson. I've got to ask you, though, the question that I get the most, why is it called Jenson?
That's the question I get the most.
Yeah, I'm sure.
So I was... working on our first advertisement in Mountain Biking magazine. It was due the next morning. I was on the phone with a friend of mine, my mentor, and I told him, okay, the name I've come up with is Cachat International. And, my last name is really somewhat difficult to pronounce. And he's like, oh, I don't know, Mike. Your last name, it could be a stumbling block. Let's come up with something else. He asked me what my middle name was, and I told him, my middle name's Vincent. And he says, oh, that could work. And I'm thinking, JensonUSA? What are you serious? And he's like, JensonUSA. That sounds great. Let's go with it. And I said, that's not my middle name. So through a misunderstanding on a phone conversation, an ad deadline looming, and there you have it. JensonUSA was born.
It's funny because you talk to different people, and they all have great names, great reasons for the genesis of the name of their company. So that's kind of cool. So you moved out of Dad's garage,
right?
Started a mail order company. At the time, were there a lot of mail order companies? Did you have a lot of competition?
No, there's just a handful, actually.
And it really was mail order at the time. It wasn't internet.
Yeah, we didn't. I mean, we didn't have a website.
Right.
It was I figured out how to create a catalog using I think it was Cork, or I can't remember what the program was called back then, and we printed it off, mailed it off to people, figuring out mailing lists to use, and collected mailing lists from our own customers.
Right.
But yeah, the website didn't start until '97. And by '98, I really saw the internet as a huge opportunity.
Sure.
And we brought in our own developer and custom designed a website that was cutting edge back then, and it rivals some of the best sites today. Obviously we've had several versions of it now, but we had real-time stock status. We had real-time order placement into the back-end order processing system. Real-time order confirmation via email, and when it shipped out, we'd send them the tracking number. It was pretty sophisticated back then, and then in the late 90s.
Things we take for granted now, right?
Things we take for granted online as online consumers, that it's just normal now.
Right.
If you don't get an email confirmation, you're going, oh, they didn't get my order, or whatever.
Yeah.
So, but back then, we were the first company in the bike industry to have those features and the functionality on the site. And that springboarded us forward a number of years, and we had our competition just trying to catch up to us. And so I guess in a sense we were setting the pace, and I think we still do that to this day. It's one of our key values or core values, and key to the success that we've had.
Let's talk about values, because when I talk about you guys on the show, one thing about Jenson, you guys have never said, here's a script, here's talking points. It's always been just tell your audience what you think of us. I always say three things. I always say you guys have a great selection, that you have phenomenal pricing. But the one thing I always talk about is customer service.
Right.
So talking about values, what's your DNA? How does customer service fit in to your philosophy of the company?
Well, core value number one is customers are everything, show them the love. And I want to create an over-the-top customer experience that gets people that hits them in the core. I mean, it's just a transaction, but I want it to be more than just a transaction of bike parts or a complete bicycle, whatever they're buying. And so that customer relationship is so critical to what we do. And it started from making some mistakes early on. Early on we didn't have a great inventory, and sometimes we would be out of stock, and there would be a miscommunication to a customer, and that created some negativity, and that ate me up inside.
Sure.
It killed me, and so I just bend over backwards to make sure that we as a company and me as an individual, and I think it permeates down through everyone in the organization, live and breathe what we do and make sure that it is felt at the customer level. Yeah,
and I think it is. I mean, it's the response I hear from my listeners. It's the response I get when I use your company. So it's huge. Toward that, who are some of your mentors? Are there people, because everyone always says, if you want to be successful in business, model success.
Yeah.
So do you have mentors or people that you look up to, whether you know them or not, that have brands or companies that you like to emulate?
We do. Yeah, I think one of the things that I've always done is try to develop relationships with other businesses inside and outside of the bike industry, and see what their core competency is, and try to learn and get as much out of them as I can Of course, I like to be a two-way street. In terms of like companies we look up to, Zappos comes to mind.
That's what I was thinking of when you were talking. Yeah.
We've, a couple years ago out here in Vegas, we went and visited their factory, and it's just an amazing company. Their culture there is fabulous. It's contagious, and you just walk away. You cannot leave that company without smiling, because they're putting so much positivity out there. Random acts of kindness is one of their things, and it's just, I love that. It's great.
Yeah, I've taken that tour, and so I know what you mean.
Okay, yeah. I don't know how they get anything done at some level, but
the way that I described that tour, not to get off on a tangent, but the way that I described it was the most entertaining and interesting cubicle farm I'd ever been to.
Yeah, that's right. The cowbell's going off, and the whistles, and they got the shake weights.
It was really, really cool.
It was interesting.
So you started, again, to go back. You were in the garage. You moved out of the garage. You got onto the internet. And then you grew.
We grew,
How did you manage that? I mean, you're learning as you go, right?
Absolutely, learning as we go. One of the things that I really enjoy is, and I think this just goes back to my cycling days, pushing yourself to a limit and pushing through the pain and whatever obstacles there might be in front of you, and getting to that next level.
Yeah.
And, in business, it's learning and growth, and everyone has their own personal ceiling. Companies don't grow, people do. And they bring the company along with them.
Yeah.
So I'm the driving force, and I'm constantly trying to get myself just, above my own personal ceiling of limitations, and I'm encouraging all my staff to do that as well. And so that I just constantly learning, and that's how we've managed the growth. It's always a challenge, but I really enjoy the challenge and the ride.
When did retail come along? Because you started in the garage, selling to folks that you met.
We've always had a little, we've always had a little retail. Even in the beginning, '96, we had a little retail location, and we've always had a little retail location. But when we set out to actually create a store, it was in 2000, and we started with in 2003 with a kind of a, what do you call it, just a test model. And then once we figured out what we were doing, we opened up a store in 2006, if I remember correctly. And I think there's a lot of opportunity. Our customers, it's really driven by our customers, and they're constantly saying, "Man, we just wish you would open up a store in our hometown. We're coming,
right,
one of these days."
Now, a few years ago, you also moved to a new facility. Tell us about that.
Right. Well, we'd grown out of our old facility. It was 20,000 square feet. We had to move inventory in and out every day just to ship. So we set out to find a new location, and we had a huge list of things that we wanted. And one of the things on our list was that, for it to be in an area where it's cycling friendly, and my background and love in cycling is mountain biking.
Right.
So I would have loved nothing more to have a building that just fronts a trail system. And so we were in escrow actually on a building in Riverside, California, and we're sitting in the boardroom trying to figure out our next step on the negotiations when I got an email from a friend of mine, and it says, "Hey Mike, I have this off-market opportunity for a building, and it's right next to Sycamore Canyon Park." And I just like my jaw hit the table. I was like, "You got to be kidding me! This is like the building we were in escrow on. It was not friendly for cycling at all." And I told my key executive, I said, "Let's go right now." We got up and we left, and I called the realtor. I said, "You drop whatever you're doing and meet us at this building, because this is the building for us."
Nice.
74,000 square feet. I think we have about 11,000 square feet of office. A huge yard for events or whatever we want to do. And then right behind that yard, that shipping yard, you've been there, you've seen it, is Sycamore Canyon Park. And I ride every afternoon like clockwork. At 4 o'clock, I'm on the bike out there doing some training ride to keep in shape.
That's great.
And enjoy the sport and ride the products we sell.
And one of the things that I saw when I was there was that your employees are cyclists as well.
Yeah, we live and breathe this stuff. Yeah. I mean, we sell fun. I mean, that's what we do. We sell fun.
By moving to the new location, did that enhance the customer support, the customer service? Were there improvements that you were able to achieve as a result of the move?
Well, it's been really beneficial to be that close to a popular riding system, because now we have customers that come in and they make their visit to our headquarters part of their riding. So they show up to ride and then they buy products. Aside from having more space and the ability to hire more people, we've really expanded our inventory offering in this space. So the depth of products that we offer now has grown probably 5 times from when we were in the smaller locations. So it's really opened up the doors for a lot of opportunity. And in addition, we have tons and tons of space to continue to grow. Nice. I don't really like to move frequently. We own the real estate, my wife and I, and so we're not beholden to some landlord. Mm-hmm. We control it, and we have maybe 10 years of growth capability in the existing building.
That's great. Now, I also know that you're involved in advocacy efforts as well. IMBA is very important to you.
Yeah.
How did you get involved in that?
Well, I reached out to IMBA a couple years ago, more than just a couple years ago, to engage with them and find out how Jenson can help IMBA succeed and meet their goals. Because, first of all, open trails is, specifically for mountain biking. We're also people for bikes. We're contributors there. But my first love is mountain biking. Right. It's what got me into the sport.
It's what got me into the sport too. We were talking about that earlier.
Right,
so and where I live, I mean, how can you not be a mountain biker?
Oh, right.
So absolutely.
Yeah, you got it made in this. I don't even want to go there. Jealous. But recently, IMBA had wanted to expand their board of directors, and they reached out to me and said, "Hey, you're on our short list for potential candidates. Kind of have you meet the board." And I thought I was so excited to be able to be on the board and give back to the sport that's given so much to me, my family, and my employees.
Sure.
I was thrilled to death. And IMBA is an absolutely phenomenal organization. What they are doing to support the sport of mountain biking is just outstanding. Yeah. And it's great to be a part of it.
That's great. What would you say just to the average everyday person who's watching, listening, who says, I care about these issues, I want to be involved, but I don't know that I personally can make a difference? What would you say to them?
Well, yeah, it takes people to make a difference. The land managers, almost all of mountain biking takes place on public lands. Mm-hmm. And IMBA is got a seat at the table. When those meetings come up and you've got the equestrian folks and the hikers and the land managers, and they're having the conversation, IMBA represents and unbelievably represents the mountain biker. And to your listeners, I would just encourage them to go to the IMBA website and become a member. It's not, just every little dollar counts. So that's how I started. Yeah. And I felt like, great, I'm making a difference and supporting this organization, and a lot of their funding comes directly from the membership dues. Yeah.
I know that I never considered myself an advocate when it came to cycling.
Right.
And then I went to the National Bike Summit a few years ago.
Right, in DC.
And all of a sudden I realized, I'm an advocate. We're all advocates.
Yeah.
And we all need to find some level, some area of cycling advocacy to get involved in. Again, whether it's lobbying a legislator, mm-hmm. whether it's taking part in events, whether it's, again, becoming a member of IMBA or getting involved in any of these other associations, we're all advocates. Or just talking to people.
Yep, that's all it is.
And putting a positive spin on cycling. It's green.
There's so many
healthy.
Positive, yeah.
And so I think in some way, shape, or form, we're all advocates. And if once we accept that, it becomes easier to get involved, no matter how small or how big. And I think that it's important that everybody does get involved.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. what's next for Jenson? Where do you think Jenson's going in the future?
Oh, we're just moving at 100 miles an hour. I think that as we continue to expand our product offering, and I was brought up and started the business as a mountain biking company, and we still, a lot of our customers are mountain bikers, and I think there's a huge opportunity to get into the road side. I mean, mountain biking is growing phenomenally, but I think there's huge opportunity on the road side, and to continue to expand our there's still a lot of people that just don't know about Jenson. It really surprises me. We do a
Everybody
good business.
Knows about Jenson.
Well, and that's because of you. Thank you.
They haven't been listening.
That's true.
So expansion is what you're thinking.
Yeah, we're just continuing to grow the brand, make a positive impact out there in the world through our customers, through our employees, and the vendor partners we work with, like you. And I think as you spread that goodwill, it's just a natural process, and growth occurs.
I've told people, and I say this all the time, if they use Jenson once, they'll never stop. Because there is that connection, that customer experience that I think differentiates you from your competition. Not talking down about your competition. It's just what makes you guys stand out in my mind, and I think in a lot of my listeners' minds. You've been here for 2 days? You've been walking around the show?
Oh, yeah. Meeting to meeting.
Question out of left field. Have you seen anything interesting, anything new, anything unique?
The fat bikes, fat tire bikes are exciting. I've been in meetings this whole time. I mean, it's like one meeting to the next. So this is my last meeting for the day, so I'm going to get out there and go check out the floor.
Good.
But fat bikes, I'm interested to see. That's a whole new category.
For you, before I let you go out back on the floor, for you, I'm just curious. Mountain bike background. We started with 26-inch bikes, right? 29ers came on slowly.
Right.
650B, 27.5 came on quickly.
Yes.
I'm seeing fewer and fewer 26, if any, 26-inch bikes out here.
It'll be gone in a year.
What do you ride?
I have 27.5, 650B, whatever you want to call it. I've just decided to call it either 27 or 27.5.
Right.
That's my own personal take on it, and I love it. It's just I'm not a super tall guy. I'm 5'10", and I get a lot of the benefits of the 29 and the agility of the 26, and I absolutely love my bike.
The way I've kind of described it is, it reminds me of, if you remember, there was a time when every mountain bike had a 1-inch headset.
Yep, I remember that.
And then Gary Fisher said, no, we're going to go 1.25 inches.
Inch and a quarter.
I was at Tioga at the time, and we went 1.125 inches. And it was like, this is too small, this is too big, this is just right. And it seems like 27.5 is where it's the exact same process.
Right.
This was too small, this was good but too big.
Right.
This is just right.
Yeah, 27.5 is just taking off like crazy. I mean, the manufacturers we talk to are just unable to keep up with the demand from the consumers. 26 is consumers are scared to buy it, which they want the latest and the greatest. If they're going to buy a new bike, why buy a 26? And I shouldn't be saying that because we have a lot of 26-inch wheeled bikes right now.
Right, careful. Edit that, guys.
Yeah.
It's interesting to see that we go through these evolutions.
Yeah, evolutions of innovation.
I was talking to the guys from SRAM earlier, and you and I remember grip shift. That's how SRAM started, right? Yeah. And at the same time, a lot of us are riding Magura hydraulic brakes or Hayes hydraulic brakes, not disc brakes, rim brakes.
The rim brakes with the push pad,
It's back.
Yeah, it's
from
back.
SRAM, and I think, wow, it's just interesting to see the way the bike industry goes inside.
I love it. I love the innovation. I love all the change. I mean, there's folks that hate change. I just love it. I love all the change. It's just, I'm a gadget geek. I love technology. I love all of it. So bring it on.
Yeah, it's exciting. Well, listen, it's been great talking to you. Great learning more about how you guys started, where you're going, and what you're doing in the advocacy. So, Mike, thanks again, as always.
Thank you,
and
David.
Thanks for joining us here on the Freightcast.
It's my pleasure.
Great to have you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it very much.
Right.
Thanks so much. Remember, JensonUSA.com, and we are at www.thefredcast.com. Thanks for joining us. Enjoy the ride.